everybody, my name is Chastiny and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Pull up a chair, tell me your name. If you're a returning member of the family, what's happening? How's the family? How's kids, the husband, the wife? Today's question is, what did you learn this month about Black history? And to be honest, I kind of forgot it was Black History Month. Now, before my Black brethren and fellowship of sisters come after me, you should know that I celebrate Black history, Black achievement, and Black excellence pretty much every day. If you go look on my Facebook, there's always something about being Black up there. Black y'all, I'm Black y'all. Where it comes from either being poetry or right now, I am stuck on Black cheerleaders right now. Oh God, it looks so good. The stunts. Anyway, I put out all sorts of different positive reinforcements of Black people. That's my goal, that's my job, and that's what I want to do. In honor of Black History Month, I would like to introduce you to Harriet Jacobs.
Harriet Jacobs was an African-American writer. Born into slavery in Edenton, North Carolina, she was sexually harassed by her master. When he threatened to sell her children, she hid in a tiny crawl space under the roof of her grandmother's house, where she wasn't even able to stand. After staying there for 7 years, she finally managed to escape to New York, where she reunited with her children Joseph and Louisa and her brother John S. Jacobs. She found work as a nanny for the children of N.P. Willis and got in contact with abolitionists and feminist reforms. Her autobiography, Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, was published in 1861 and is now considered an American classic.
Harriet gives us a first-hand account of her life as a slave. This story is painful. It is an uncomfortable read, but it's a necessary read at the same time. We learn about how promises made by the masters are rarely ever kept. We learn about a disgusting man named Dr. Flint who sexually pursues Harriet throughout like a large majority of her teenage years. He has a wife and she is very paranoid and she can't seem to blame her husband, so she blames Harriet. It's really kind of strange the things that this woman did to try to catch Harriet pursuing her husband, because I guess in her mind she was like, why would my husband come after you? You have to be tempting him. Throughout Harriet's account, we also learn about how families were ripped apart on New Year's Day. We also learn about how girls are no longer girls once they hit puberty, and a slave girl learns very fast about what men want and what they will take. You have to remember that this really isn't written for me. This story isn't written for me to read and understand. I mean, it probably is for me today, but for back when this was written, this was not written for Black people. This was written for white people to try to humanize slaves. That's what this was written for. There are a couple of people that I want to talk about that's in this book. I keep wanting to call them characters, but these weren't characters. No one made them up. These are actual people who actually existed and actually did these things and committed these actions. And I don't know, it's hard sometimes for me to realize like these aren't characters, because there's one point where the sexual harasser, Dr. Flint, it's like he's pursuing her, he's harassing her, and it's such a TV show cliche, and I really wanted to be like, while I was reading the book, I'm really like, okay, this is when she comes out of hiding and she like stabs him in the eye or something. But no, this is real life. This is what actually happened. And in a book written for entertainment, this man, this guy, Dr. Flint, would be, he'd be pushed off a cliff, or he would be stabbed in the eye, or, he would get his comeuppance. But no, I mean, he does die, but not by the hands of our protagonist. Or she's not protagonist, not by the hands of Harriet Jacobs. She outlives him, but not because she killed him. in any other story, it would be because she killed him, or she, was fighting him and he slipped and died, so that she doesn't have to be a murderer in any capacity. That's not what happens. This is real life, where thank God he died before he could get to her, because God only knows what he would have done. Frustrated. Hate Dr. Flint. So Dr. Flint had a unhealthy obsession with Harriet. He pursued her till pretty much the day he died, which I'm like, ugh. But Dr. Flint, I think he started noticing her once she hit puberty. She's like, what, 14, 15, and he pursued her, and he was like, you could be mine, I'll take care of you, I've never hit you. Slaves weren't supposed to know how to read or write, but she knew how to read and write, and he caught her writing, and instead of punishing her, he started sending her like letters, and his letters were like dirty talk. Even if you were a slave, you still had virtue that you practiced. So for him to be writing disgusting letters and telling her the things, I can only imagine what he would write to her. And what I liked about her handling that is that she would always be like, oh, I can't read or write, so I don't know what this says. But he would take that opportunity to be like, oh, you don't know what it says? Let me read it to you. So then he would read it out loud to her. And she was allowed to stay in her grandmother's house because the wife didn't like Harriet around, because her husband was so obviously obsessed with this girl who would not give him consent, which is a strange thing. I mean, I'm glad it happened this way, but it was so strange because he wouldn't do anything until she consented to it. And she's like, no. He built her a cabin in the back of the woods, and he was like, in this cabin, I built this for you so that you can have your own place, and I'll treat you like a proper lady. To which she was like, no, I'm not going to go live there either. I'm not going to do that. No. And he was like, you will do this. But he couldn't technically make her do anything to that degree, because she belonged to his daughter. It's just I'm so grossed out by this guy. I can't even call him a man, but I'm grossed out by him. I wish I knew his real name. I really do. Because I'm pretty sure she changed all the names in here. Because when Harriet published this, it was published under the name Linda Brent, to hide herself and to make sure no one harassed her. Harriet would deny him, and she held out because saving her virginity for when she got married. And there was a nice black man who was free, who wanted to marry her, and Dr. Flint was like, no, never. Why are you putting these crimes against me? He's always complaining that he treats her so well and that he could treat her like the lady she should be if she would just give in to his will. And he's always complaining, this is the crimes against me. No other master would do or put up with your mess, and I'm willing to do this for you, and blah, blah. And he was always spitting it in her face. You'll always be mine, no matter what. And Harriet met another man. The black man couldn't buy her freedom, and any kids that she had would be a slave anyway. So she was like, you know what? He doesn't deserve this. And I think he goes on his way. And then she meets a white man who secretly tries to keep buying her. And she had been intimate with him and got pregnant. And that threw Dr. Flint for a loop. He goes, what? Who? What? When? Where? How? So now she has 2 kids by this other white man. Dr. Flint is pissed because he's supposed to be with her, and she was like, I would rather be with this white man who I know he cares for me, but he can only care so much for me. And he said that he was going to try to buy the kids, he was going to try to buy her, but in the end, this man that she gave herself to, she gave him 2 kids. I think he said he was supposed to buy their freedom, and he just bought their kids, but they weren't free. You know, he owned their kids. His kids weren't free. And then he became like some kind of thing. At the end of the day, she was like, oh, well, that's not good, because he could send for them. Like, he actually put them out to work. Like, not in the fields or anything like that, but I think his daughter wanted to be sent off to be someone's babysitter for a couple of years. It's just a life of unfairness. Like, this isn't a story. This is not a story. This is an account of what happened in someone's life. And as much as you want to be like, oh, this white man is a good guy, he's going to help her, he's going to set their kids free, and it turns out, no, not really. He bought them. He was successful in purchasing them, but he didn't set them free. I need to move on, because those two men, like Dr. Flint, pisses me off, but the other guy pisses me off just as much, but Dr. Flint is just a little bit higher. Like, I can't with these men. Dr. Flint's second wife was a jealous, paranoid woman. She was also young, because I think Dr. Flint married her when he was like in his 40s or something, and she's probably like 20s, early 30s. And, you know, she's the woman of the house. She is also the slave master in a way, and she runs the house day to day. And yet her husband is pursuing relentlessly and unabashedly this slave girl. He is like coming after her, and he is trying to find different ways of being alone with her. Like, at one point, because Harriet belongs to his daughter, he is like, I need Harriet here to watch the daughter in the house, and my daughter will sleep in my room, therefore Harriet has to sleep in my room. And the wife is like, no. Like, she put her foot down on that, and she goes, no. And then she would go to Harriet, and she was like, did you know what he was planning? Did you know you had to sleep in his room? And she goes, yes. And she was like, no, now you're going to sleep in my room. And she would watch Harriet sleep. She would talk to Harriet in the middle of the night to see if Harriet would like spill the beans about what's truly going on. Basically, the wife was trying to catch Harriet in the act, in her sleep. And she was just like, it's just the jealousy. It's like, again, like, if this was a movie, this would be the moment where both of them team up and kind of take them out and girl power. No, that's not what happens, because this is not a movie. This is real life. It's kind of frustrating, really. This woman was just terrible too. Like, a part of me felt so bad for her, the wife, and I was like, oh my god. But then another part of me is like, you don't have to treat you know that Harriet doesn't want your husband. You know that Harriet cannot like not do what he says. You know that. But she would still, like, she can't punch up, so she punches down. That's basically what it is. Another person in this book that Harriet mentions a lot is her grandmother. I love her grandma. Harriet's grandmother was a strong woman. She bought her freedom. Actually, no, she didn't. She was set free, but she was like a well-respected slave who became free because it was said that she would be free in the will. And then Dr. Flint was like, it said that you were to be free, but we can't afford to set you free, so we're gonna sell you. And like, this is the one time where I'm like, see, all white people ain't that bad. Cause like all the white people around them were like, nah, we respect her. She makes good food. She has her own little business. She has her own little house. She's never caused us any trouble, and she's a delight. So when Dr. Flint went to go put her on the chopping block, someone else, like all the white people were like, you really gonna tell someone that was supposed to be set free after all the work and dedication she did for the couple of years, or for the last 20-30 years, when she was on the block, and she was like, who's gonna pay for me? And all the white people were like, I'm not paying for it. She's supposed to be free. She was supposed to be set free. She earned her keep. She did what she had to do, and now she should be free. And then eventually this old white lady was like, I'll buy her for $50. Bought her for $50 and set her free right there. And no one else would go over $50. Like, no. Imagine all this work that this woman had to do as a slave to earn that kind of respect. And it's not easy. Even today, it's not easy to earn respect from people. So for her to be a slave and to earn that kind of respect, like, that says something about her character. Now, I hate falling into like stereotypical stuff, but her grandma was sassy AF, y'all. Like, and the gall she had to say, the things she did, she was free, she was working, she was respected. And I have to read the one thing that made me go, whew. Alright, so before I read this little blurb, I want to tell you why things are going on right now. Nat Turner did his thing and he went and killed a whole bunch of people. After he got caught, you know, like, black people, free and enslaved, were like pulled out of their houses, and people, they were looking for like anything to prove that, you know, of a rebellion that was building, and like looking for gunpowder, looking for weapons, and they would pull people out of their houses and they would whip them. Like, I remember Harriet said, like, some people stood in a pool of their own blood after being whipped, even though they were free. They came to her grandmother's house, and this is what happened. My grandmother had a large trunk of bedding and the tablecloths. When it was opened, there was a great shout of surprise, and one exclaimed, "Where'd this damn niggers get all this sheet and tablecloth?" My grandmother, emboldened by the presence of our white protector, said, "You may be sure we didn't pilfer it from your house." Do you not hear the strength in that? Like, that strength in, he's like, where'd they get this nice stuff from? And she go, you can guarantee we didn't steal it from you. She quick. She quick. I really love her grandma. To an extent. I think because she reminds me of so many women that I personally know in my life, in my family. So, like, this pretty much is like how the women in my family be like, well, we didn't steal it from you. So the reason I chose this book to tell you guys about is because I personally have an attachment to this book. I've been living in Columbia, North Carolina for years. I mean, I went to middle school and high school in Columbia, North Carolina. I live 34 minutes away from Edenton, North Carolina. I have never heard, not once in my life, of a woman named Harriet Jacobs who evaded capture by living in her grandmother's house attic for like 7 years. For me to live 35 minutes from a place like this and never know about this woman is completely unacceptable to me. I have been in Edenton, all over Edenton. I have never once heard of Harriet Jacobs. I have never seen a statue of Harriet Jacobs. This is a story, a very rare story, from a very rare perspective that I think that we should know about. Oh my God. Like, I didn't go to school in the Edenton, like, district, so I don't know if kids knew about Harriet Jacobs, but I feel like I should know, I should have at least heard of the name before, but I never had, and it pisses me off that I didn't. I'm so mad. I was like, why did it take me going all the way across country, taking a history class for a GE, and then it happened to be one of 6 books on a list of optional books to read. It shouldn't have taken me. That should not have been how I heard about Harriet Jacobs. This is the book I recommend people either listen to or buy, because you can listen to it for free on YouTube. It's here. I think it's about 7 hours worth of listening. You can listen to it for free. You can get the book for free on like a book app. There's a book app on my phone that just came with the phone, and I looked up the book and it's free. Black History Month normally goes over the same people over and over again, which this is why I don't really pay that much attention to Black History Month, because they're going over the same people over and over and over again. We know about Martin Luther King, we know about Rosa Parks, we know about Malcolm X, we know about Susie B. Anthony. It is great to do a refresher, but we should also know about people like Harriet Jacobs and her experience, her worldview, and how she saw things and how she went through and lived and survived. Alright, I'm gonna wrap this up because it's too much. I'm getting not emotional, but I'm getting overwhelmed. Like, I can't keep talking about this for too long. It's too much. I'm just really mad that I lived so close to this and never heard of it, never heard of her. I've never seen a statue of her. We've never had a dedication to her. Maybe in Edenton, people who live in Edenton, maybe there is. If you live in Edenton and you know there is, please let me know, because I am pissed. And I can't get to North Carolina right now, because if I could, I would go drive around looking for it. But I can't right now. So I don't know how many other people know, but it pisses me off. And I have to calm down now because I got other things to do. Anyway. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of As I Read, where today I read Incidents in the Life of a Slave Girl, told by herself, Harriet Jacobs, by Harriet Jacobs. That was a mouthful. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Happy Black History Month, and I will see you guys next week. Oh, God. Oh, this video was so hard to make. I'm like emotionally drained right now.